The movie begins in 1985 with Thomas, a lighthouse keeper, on duty. While patrolling, he discovers an injured woman lying unconscious on the beach. Upon awakening, the woman, named Atlanta, reveals that she is the queen of the underwater kingdom of Atlantis. She fled from her kingdom to escape an unwanted marriage to King Orvik. Thomas allows her to stay with him, and they live together as lighthouse keepers. Over time, they develop feelings for each other and have a son named Arthur. Atlanta hopes that Arthur will one day unite Atlantis and the surface dwellers. They enjoy a happy life until Atlantean soldiers arrive and disrupt their peace. Despite Atlanta's resistance and her slaying of the soldiers, she realizes they won't cease pursuing her. To protect Thomas and their son, she decides to return to Atlantis and marry King Orvik. Years later, Arthur is now attending elementary school, and during a school trip to the aquarium, his powers start to manifest. When his friends bully him, the sharks and other fish in the aquarium become agitated, but Arthur manages to calm them down, earning their allegiance. Witnessing this, everyone is amazed, and his friends start calling him Aquaman. As a teenager, Atlantis secretly sends her trusted advisor, Volko, to train Arthur in swimming and combat skills. Under Volko's guidance, Arthur becomes proficient in various abilities. However, he harbors deep resentment towards Atlantis after discovering that his mother was executed by King Orvik for her relationship with a surface dweller and for having a son of mixed heritage. Several years later, modern pirates led by Kane and his son David rob a Russian Navy submarine without any hitches. However, their plan is disrupted when Arthur arrives to rescue the submarine crew. He effortlessly defeats the pirates and saves the crew from danger. David attempts to engage Arthur in combat, but Arthur's superhuman abilities render him invulnerable, making David's sword ineffective against him. Kane intervenes by firing a grenade launcher at Arthur, but despite being hit, Arthur remains unharmed and retaliates by hurling an iron pipe at Kane. As Arthur prepares to depart, King fires his gun again, causing the submarine to spring a leak. Simultaneously, a torpedo is released, striking King's leg. David pleads with Arthur to save his father, but Arthur refuses, recognizing them as villains who have caused harm to innocent people. With his father's demise, David vows revenge against Arthur. Meanwhile, deep in the Atlantic Ocean, two kings, Ormond and Nereus, from separate kingdoms convene for a clandestine meeting at a location known as the Seven Kings Assembly. Long ago, all the Atlantis kingdoms united under the rule of the legendary King Adeline. ORM, Arthur's half-brother and the son of King Orvak and Atlanta, begins to sway Nereus towards the idea of reuniting the entire kingdom of Atlantis and waging war against the surface dwellers for the harm they have inflicted upon the ocean. In the vicinity, factories continue to dispose of waste into the sea, causing significant damage. The nearby Bryan Kingdom and other realms refuse to submit easily. Additionally, there are rumors circulating that Atlanta has engaged in an illicit relationship with surface dwellers and has a son. Suddenly, they are ambushed by a submarine attack, leaving Nereus and many soldiers injured. However, Arthur swiftly defeats the submarine after the assault, prompting Nereus to agree to declare war against the surface dwellers. The attack appears to be orchestrated by David seeking vengeance for his father's death. Shortly after, Atlantis soldiers approach David with a message from ORM, indicating that Aquaman is not their enemy and offering gold as a sign of alliance. Meanwhile, Arthur exits a bar and assists his heavily intoxicated father to the car. Mara, Arthur's fiancée from Atlantis, arrives and informs him of significant news. She urges Arthur to travel to Atlantis and thwart ORM's war plans, which could result in the deaths of millions. As Atlanta's eldest son and rightful heir to the throne, Arthur is tasked with this crucial mission. However, Arthur declines and pledges to avenge Atlanta's cruelty by consigning his mother to the Trench Kingdom's beasts. On the journey home, Arthur senses something amiss upon witnessing thousands of birds fleeing from the sea, signaling a looming tsunami. Attempting to flee, Arthur's car is struck by the tsunami, separating him from his father. Fortunately, Mara intervenes just in time to rescue them, swiftly draining the water from Tom's body. Arthur expresses immense gratitude to Mara for saving his father, but she cautions him that the tsunami is only the beginning of the disaster, which claimed hundreds of lives and caused extensive damage. Moreover, the tsunami has washed all the sea garbage back to the mainland. Realizing the severity of the situation, Arthur agrees to accompany Mara to Atlantis to halt ORM's madness. Upon reaching the Kingdom of Atlantis, they undergo rigorous checks, but Arthur is reassured as Mara possesses diplomatic credentials and is the daughter of King Nereus. Arthur is captivated by the beauty of Atlantis upon seeing it for the first time, and Mara escorts him to a secluded area to meet with Volko. Volko urges Arthur to seize the throne because ORM has persuaded 2 other kingdoms to attack the surface. Arthur must locate the legendary trident crafted by the greatest blacksmith in history, as it's the sole means for him to ascend to the throne. The trident, once possessed by King Adalin, holds the power to command the allegiance of all of Atlantis. Volko recounts the tale of when the 7 kingdoms united, describing their highly advanced civilization and technological prowess. However, their thirst for power led to the catastrophic development of nuclear technology, resulting in Atlantis' downfall and submersion. Yet, this cataclysm endowed them with the ability to adapt and breathe underwater. King Adalin, living in exile thereafter, vanished along with his trident, leaving behind a mystery. Volko presents an artifact recently excavated by archaeologists from the Desert Kingdom's first dynasty. He believes it contains ancient records revealing King Adalin's resting place and, consequently, the trident's whereabouts. However, their discussion is interrupted by armed soldiers who detected Arthur's presence. Fortunately, Volko and Mira manage to flee, safeguarding their rebellion against ORM from exposure. Arthur attempts to resist the soldiers but discovers that, being in Atlantis, he is vulnerable to all weapons. Eventually, he is overpowered and handed over to ORM, tied up and seething with anger. ORM proceeds to insult Arthur, explaining his motivation for waging war against surface dwellers, their constant destruction and pollution of the sea with industrial waste. Disregarding this rationale, Arthur refuses to let the war proceed and challenges ORM to a duel, proposing that the loser must halt the war. ORM gleefully accepts the challenge, and they prepare to fight in the fiery arena. Before the duel commences, Arthur realizes that Mira is ORM's fiancée. As Arthur enters the arena, the spectators hurl insults, branding him a bastard and a traitor. In the midst of battle, Arthur nearly defeats ORM by causing him to fall into the fire, but ORM manages to survive. After a fierce struggle, ORM shatters Arthur's trident and emerges victorious. Just as ORM is about to deliver the final blow, Mara intervenes unexpectedly, sacrificing herself to save Arthur. She urges him to flee the arena, but ORM and his soldiers pursue them, damaging their ship in the process. They make multiple attempts to flee the area, narrowly avoiding falling into the lava. Eventually, seizing an opportunity, they purposefully drop their ship into the lava to erase their trail. Encountering a pod of whales, Arthur, who understands whale language, seeks refuge in their mouths, evading detection. Alum, believing they perished in the lava, moves on, allowing them to continue their journey towards the Sahara Desert. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Mara, the bracelet on her hand acts as a tracking device, enabling ORM to monitor their movements. ORM orders his elite soldiers to eliminate them, but King Nereus threatens to sever their alliance if harm comes to Mara. Fearing the consequences, ORM refrains from harming her. In a subsequent scene, ORM dispatches soldiers to deliver a message to David. Wong equips David with special weaponry and armor of incredible power, including a plasma weapon fueled by water. Delighted with the weapon, David eagerly accepts it, seeing it as a means to defeat Arthur. Upon returning home, David begins researching the weapons to enhance their capabilities. Meanwhile, Mara's device successfully pinpoints the location of the kingdom they seek in the Sahara Desert. Mara, unaware of the sky's dangers, leaps without a parachute. Initially, they find nothing in the desert, but suddenly Arthur plunges into a hole, leading them to the desert kingdom they seek. They discover a table-like structure, and Mara places an ancient record from Volko onto it. Initially, nothing happens, but they are convinced it still functions. Mara collects a few drops of Arthur's sweat and adds them to the ancient record, activating it. A message from King Adalin materializes, discussing his trident and providing clues about its whereabouts. To obtain the legendary trident, they must journey to the ends of the earth and locate it in a hidden sea. The true king alone can decipher the map inside a bottle. Upon locating the bottle, they find a map inside. Arthur and Mara promptly head to Italy as per the map's directions. Initially stumped by the riddle, Arthur recalls Adalin's clue about the true king. They come across numerous statues of Roman heroes, leading Arthur to conclude that Romulus was the sole individual who became king and served as the inaugural Roman king. Arthur quickly places the bottle on Romulus's statue and successfully uncovers the next destination. The clue directs them to journey to the edge of the world where the hidden sea lies. However, their progress is abruptly interrupted by ORM's elite soldiers and David, who identifies himself as Black Manta. Arthur engages in combat with David, unaware of David's Atlantean armor, which inflicts numerous injuries on him. David, equipped with Atlantean weaponry, proves to be a formidable adversary. Fortunately, David's suit malfunctions, leading to his demise. Meanwhile, Mara refuses to return to the kingdom and valiantly battles the Atlantean soldiers. Despite the soldiers' inability to breathe on the surface, Mara emerges victorious. With Arthur severely wounded, he instructs Mara to remove her bracelet as they are being tracked. In the subsequent scene, they finally reach a perilous location engulfed in storms. They are startled by the appearance of frightening sea creatures inhabiting the area. Initially attempting to combat the creatures, Arthur and Mara are overwhelmed by their sheer numbers and are compelled to seek refuge inside their ship. Fortunately, Arthur discovers some flares, revealing that the creature is highly afraid of light. He grabs a few flares as a precaution and swiftly dives into the water to search for Adeline's trident. The sea they find is the Trench Kingdom where Arthur's mother met her demise. They encounter millions of trench creatures, posing a threat, but they stumble upon a light source that deters the creatures from pursuing them. This light source turns out to be a massive underwater vortex. As they attempt to enter the vortex, it propels them to another location. Mara falls unconscious as more trench creatures approach, but she is rescued by an unknown entity and transported elsewhere. Arthur suddenly emerges on the surface, finding himself in the hidden sea he sought. The entity that saved Mara is revealed to be Atlanta, who is still alive after all these years. Atlanta informs Arthur that she has been there for 2 decades, surviving. She also discloses the location of Adeline's trident, situated behind a waterfall guarded by the legendary monster Kraken. Arthur ventures into the waterfall and locates the trident, but as he reaches for it, a colossal creature, described by Atlanta, emerges to attack him. Despite the creature's overwhelming strength and relentless attacks, Arthur persists in his attempts to obtain the trident. When Kraken is on the verge of killing him, Arthur utilizes his ability to communicate with the creature. Kraken is astonished because no one has ever understood his language before, except King Adlan. Finally, Kraken permits Arthur to take the trident. With Adeline's trident in his possession, Arthur has succeeded, and all of Atlantis will acknowledge him as their ruler. Meanwhile, ORM has successfully united 3 other kingdoms to support him, and he is preparing to invade the Brine Kingdom to compel their alliance in fighting against the surface dwellers. However, the Brine Kingdom refuses to surrender and chooses to resist ORM. In the ensuing battle, ORM nearly slays the king of the Brine Kingdom before a colossal creature emerges from below and attacks ORM's army. It turns out that Arthur controls the creature, terrifying ORM's troops. The entire kingdom of Atlantis is astonished to witness Arthur wielding Adeline's trident and commanding all its inhabitants. In the trench, Arthur easily takes control of ORM's cavalry and retaliates against them despite their continuous attacks. Arthur then proposes a surface duel with ORM, as ORM had previously defeated him in an underwater battle. The duel is inevitable and is witnessed by kings from other kingdoms. Initially, Arthur struggles against ORM, but he employs a technique taught by Foco and eventually triumphs over ORM. ORM urges Arthur to kill him, but Arthur refuses, unwilling to slay his own brother. Atlanta intervenes and urges them to halt the bloodshed. ORM, surprised and remorseful upon learning that his mother is still alive, acquiesces. However, Foco promptly orders the soldiers to arrest ORM due to his war crimes, likening him to Hitler and other dictators. Now, Arthur no longer needs to worry because all of Atlantis finally acknowledges him as their rightful king. Atlanta is finally reunited with Tom after years of separation. The film concludes by showing David, who is still alive, being saved by a doctor and scientist named Stephen Shin, who is deeply obsessed with the legend of Atlantis. David agrees to assist him in locating the kingdom of Atlantis on the condition that Shin helps him uncover the identity of Aquaman. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thanks and see you again soon. Take care.